online education and have access to dramatically improve student outcomes. Well, we don't have to ask what if anymore because we're making that investment today. It's called HBCUV. And I'm excited to share with you the details about the platform right here and right now. At its core, HBCUV is a shared online platform for Black colleges and universities. But it's so much more than that. And it's primarily because it is the first learning technology ecosystem ever that has been built by HBCUs for HBCUs. We've partnered with 9 HBCUs to design and develop the concepts that are at the core of HBCUV. These 9 institutions will be the first to pilot the platform when it enters into a limited beta release next year. Not only did these institutions volunteer to help test and improve HBCUV, they opened up their campus doors to a team of researchers that dug deep into the challenges and opportunities facing our institutions. But we can't do it alone. So that's why we partnered with the world leader in developing online experiences, Deloitte Digital, whose ethos division, a specialized team of that are dedicated to developing breakthrough technologies that have the potential to change the world, will help us and turn our vision into reality. Together, we designed a platform built on 6 radical but foundational tenets, and I'm proud to share some of those outputs of those tenets with you today. The first tenet is promoting Black excellence. We knew that at our core, we wanted to build a place that would be home to the best Black courses taught by the best Black minds in America. We knew that we wanted cutting-edge instructional design that would elevate Black pedagogy and curricula and put our brand of academia on the map globally. We knew that we didn't want to just follow standards and best practices for online education, but set them for ourselves. The second tenet is creating Black futures, because that's what we're here to do. That's what we've always been here to do. Since 1923, UNCF has stood at the center of education and promoted its ability to lift young Black people up and out of poverty and into a world of possibilities they could hardly imagine. So with HBCUV, we're giving them the tools to imagine what's possible and design a more prosperous life. From degree discovery to program matching, from semester planning to budgeting tools, from providing students curriculum focused on real-world skills to connecting students with high-paying jobs at top employers. We are here to create vibrant futures for Black students all across America, because we know that a mind is a terrible thing to waste. But we also know that it's not just about one student. We know that it takes a village. We know that it's about we and not about me. And we know that a tight-knit community is at the core of what makes HBCU successful. That's why connecting Black talent is at the core of what we're hoping to achieve here, and we're doing it in the 21st century way. Not only is HBCUV itself going to be technology that unites and connects HBCU campuses all across these United States, but it will have social technology that connects across campuses. Whether they're looking for help in an online class, looking for co-founders, for a startup, or just looking for a friend to team up with in Fortnite, we're going to be in the business of connecting Black students, period. We're designing pathways that allow family members, friends, and alumni to participate in and help grow our students, holding them accountable, giving them the support, and fundamentally unlocking new opportunities. All right, y'all still with me? I'm almost done. Okay. One of the main insights that we've uncovered, and I think I'm a little ahead on my slide, sorry about that. One of the main insights we've uncovered in research was that many HBCU students had a part-time or a full-time job on top of their education commitments, and many also had family duties. So we wanted to make sure that with HBCUV, we put flexibility first. That means that we support synchronous and asynchronous learning, including blended or hybrid course options, so that students can choose the style of learning that works best for their lives. Also, it means that we aren't just here for four-year degrees. We're committed to providing certificate programs, especially ones that credentialize in-demand skills in emerging fields, to help students get ahead in a fast and ever-changing economy. But flexibility isn't the only thing that online technology enables. It also produces thousands of trackable data points around the student experience that we can leverage to drive results and improve student outcomes. That means algorithms that we can use to match students with courses that fit their specific learning style. It means that predictive analytics that we can use to alert teachers when one of their students is starting to fall behind, not at midterms or at the end when it's too late, but at the right time when we can help them get ahead. And it means empowering students to provide critical data to instructors to inform in the form of feedback that will help improve the quality of instruction, giving them insights on everything from how comprehensible a lecture was or how relevant a test was. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Big data means big opportunities for higher ed, and we want to be at the forefront of it. And lastly, we believe that a rising tide raises all ships. We believe that by connecting HBCUs, we can activate their collective genius and share resources to make every institution a top destination for higher education. We can do that by creating a shared online library for course curriculum and modules that faculty can borrow from and contribute to. We can ensure that all institutions, not just those with massive budgets, have access to quality research resources. And we can pool resources to ensure that tutors, special needs instructors, and other learning experts are available to help students online. Now, I'll be the first to admit all that I just said, it's a lot. HBCUV is an enormously ambitious project that will take years to fully realize. Today is just the first step along a long road to greatness. Though we started with just 9 partner institutions, our vision is that HBCUV will be the flagship online learning ecosystem supporting all HBCUs and PBIs. We want, in fact, we need all of you to help us bring this vision to life. Not just because of what it means for you and your students, but what it means for the world. With HBCUV, we have the potential to redefine Black excellence and export it, to students and learners at a global scale. For too long, the academic perspective of America's HBCUs has been hidden to the world, except for those few who had the opportunity to attend one of our 102 schools in the southern United States. With HBCUV, we can open up that opportunity to millions more learners in the United States and across the globe, while elevating the many achievements of HBCU grads to the world stage. With HBCUV, we can reduce the racial wealth gap once and for all and ensure a thriving Black middle class. We know, in fact, that we've always known that a higher quality education is key to a higher quality of life. And with this platform, we can deliver on that promise to exponentially more students. We can connect our students with good, high-paying jobs in all types of fields, but especially STEM. HBCUV is a truly game-changing platform that promises to reimagine Black education and put HBCUs at the forefront of online education. And we need your help to do it. We want all of you to take part in helping us define features, establish policies, and build state-of-the-art courses that demonstrate just how powerful and important Black education can be. This isn't some vaporware platform that might not come for another decade. We are developing this platform right now, which means we want your help as soon as you can give it. I'm excited to announce that the first pilot courses hosted on this revolutionary new platform will be launching next year. You can take the first step in shaping the future of Black education today by attending the HBCUV Hackathon that will be happening in the breakout sessions this afternoon. I hope to see you there. We also are selling these beautiful sweatshirts. We only have a limited number, so first come, first serve. Don't leave here without it. So thank you and have a wonderful day.
Can we get another round of applause for Dr. Richardson and the HBCUV team? Please join me in welcoming the moderator of our afternoon session to the stage, Dr. Zillah Fluker.
So I've passed requirement number 1. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all so much for being a part of this. I'm Zillah Fluker, and I proudly serve as the Director of Executive Leadership with UNCF's Institute for Building Capacity, and this is day 3 of week 4. So I think that deserves a round of applause. No, it is so exciting to be a part of a movement. It is so exciting to have the opportunity to get into a space where you're really in a position to add value for the sake of taking a moment and positioning that moment into momentum. And that's the topic that we're talking about today. But before we go into that, I'll talk a little bit about the Institute for Building Capacity Executive Leadership focus. Our goal is essentially to take the amazing visions that exist and figure out how we're going to help enable those visions that come from the great leaders who at this time I would like to take a quick second and have every individual who serves as president or chancellor of our great HBCUs, please just stand for one moment so we can all recognize you. So there are a lot of people in here, and you don't have to stand again, but I need y'all to do a little bit more because these are individuals who are doing so much with so little. They go to bed thinking HBCUs. They wake up thinking HBCUs. They have committed their lives to help us advance our HBCU mission. Our students are worth every second, and we are wanting to figure out a way that with our platform, UNCF's great legacy, how can we pull out the executive leadership component, working with not only the presidents, but partnering with the board members as well as the executive leadership teams, the cabinets, to really make sure that we are helping build the capacity at the highest leadership level. Because when we think about sustainability, taking the moment and turning it into momentum, we know that it is important that the leadership is supported in a way that they can be highly impactful and do a lot more as we continue to make that less even more. So that being said, when you think about what we're trying to do, you want to have the subject matter experts. And this morning I decided to look up the definition of the word emeritus or emerita. And we have the fortunate pleasure, I have the fortunate pleasure of working with individuals. You heard Asia refer to them as the library, but individuals who share a perspective and stay very well read up and, quite frankly, share a lot of content with us to help us think through, who really spend time partnering with us to leverage their experiences, their wisdom, to support the executive leadership at our HBCUs today. So we're going to have a conversation, and it will be a dialogue, and we hope that you all have a chance to engage with three individuals who I think represent that and also hold that great honor of Emerita and Emeritus status at their institutions. So what I'd like to do now is invite my new team, our presidents in resident, Dr. Beverly Hogan, who is President Emerita of Tougaloo College. Give her a round of applause. Right here, please. Awesome. Next, we have Dr. Haywood Strickland, who is President Emeritus of Texas College and Wiley College. Right here, please. Yep. And then we have Dr. Charlie Nelms, who's President Emeritus of North Carolina Central University. Yes, please. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and transition into our conversation. Each of you has been here observing everything that's been going on. And we spent a little time thinking through what we saw as valuable to add to the conversation. But before we do that, I only gave your name, and I only gave your institutions that have recognized you. I would love for each of you just take a brief moment to share who you are and some of the value propositions that you have around the HBCU conversation. We'll start with you, Dr. Hogan.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Beverly Hogan, and as she said, I'm President Emerita of Tougaloo College. I spent 17 years there as president, and I retired on June 30th, 2019. And left that wonderful institution in the capable hands of Dr. Carmen Walters as a senior. I'm also an alumna of Tougaloo College, and I have a real commitment to HBCUs. And what I first want to say that just listening and looking at all of the topics and sessions and that you are dealing with here today, that's so transformational if our institutions get in the midst of that and really move that forward. At the heart of education, for me, is that it is transformation. Our students and all of us who enter education, our gates and those institutes should not leave the same way. It should be an uplifting, it should be an inspiring experience. And I think that when we talk about the value proposition of education, I look at not only just what education does for the students we serve, or those who are delivering the knowledge to the students, but I look at the impact that education has on changing families and individuals, but also the impact it has on the environment around us, the communities. Mm-hmm. And it is for me, our institutions are engines of upward mobility, socially, economically, politically, and it transforms not only the students we serve, helping them to go out into the marketplace and become competitive, broad-based, but it also helps our communities to grow and help us to have a vibrant and sustained democracy, and our communities and our nation and the world become a better place because we have more open minds and we're better informed, and we use that to make a difference, and that's how I see that.
Excellent. Thank you. Dr. Strickland.
Yes, I'm Haywood Strickland, and I've learned throughout the years, Dr. Fowler, Beverly Hogan, she usually says everything that needs to be said and more. But my journey has been a long journey in higher education. I spent all my time in higher education, my entire career, starting with as a professor of history, and then director of Upward Bound, dealing with students from the high school level, and from there to the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools, and from there to UNCF, National Association of State Universities, land-grant colleges. And so my travel was throughout the various elements and areas and segments of higher education. And along the way, I think I learned more about our colleges and how they operate and the vagaries of their development than perhaps others who have come along, because my journey was not just a straight linear within an institution up through dean, up through vice president, up through provost. It was more lateral across the various groups and areas that work with higher education. I come from a family that that made me understand and know that the education period was the vehicle for upward mobility, for success, for sustainability. And so I've spent my life trying to help institutions help students. And if we don't understand that the end result of all we do, all these workshops, all this technology, at the end of the day, if we have not made a significant impact in the lives of the students we serve, then we failed. There's no other outcome to me, than that you look out and you see the students that you work with, that you serve, say to you, without you, I would not have made it. Without Dillard, without Tougaloo, without North Carolina Central, I would be a different kind of person. And so we come from working from within. I respect the process, and we're at a point now where we must make some significant changes in the way we do business if we are to be successful in the higher education arena. There's no more guilt about where our colleges are. It's all about what can you produce, how can you document that you're viable and relevant in the world today.
Excellent.
Well, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Come on, talk to me. Good afternoon. I'm delighted to be here. So I'm a person of the soil. I grew up on a farm picking cotton in the Arkansas Delta. And from a family of 11 children, and I'm number 5 in the 11. I had a high score on the ACT. It was 4. And my academic advisor at Arkansas Agricultural, Mechanical, and Normal College said to me, Mr. Nelms, your score is sort of low. She said, but if you follow this program, you'll be all right. Mm-hmm. And that place took me from the Buck Lake Road in Arkansas to 3 university chancellorships and a lot of other places. And so I'm indebted to those people in Arkansas, at Arkansas A&M. They never have to ask me for any money. I always have it ready. Always give it, okay, because of my appreciation. I flunked retirement twice, and but every day, I try to do something to advance the mission and the success of all our historically black colleges and universities, because I know the power of education. I know my mama was right when she said, if you get yourself a good education, no one can take it away from you.
That's right.
And you can make a difference. I'm delighted to be here, and I'm encouraged by all of you young people that I see who are leading these institutions, the people who are here putting on the conference and making presentations. I'm just encouraged by that, and that's why I am hopeful, very hopeful, about the future of black higher education in this country.
Excellent, thank you. So why don't we get right into the conversation? We basically spent some time thinking through several topics that we thought would be interesting to share with this audience, and I'd like to lead in with some thinking around one of the things that our schools experience, which is this whole presidential transition process. Each of you transitioned in and you transitioned out of your presidencies and or chancellorships. And I'd like to just take a few moments, just hear your experiences, and we'll lead in with you, Dr. Strickland, on, what did those transitions look like, and what were some things that you thought impacted your actual service as the leader of that institution?
Thank you much. Let me say this first of all. If we could get our boards to understand how to do it, it would be transformational indeed. And so we have a long way to go. There are some guidelines, guideposts, best practices that we all know about. I want to say this also, though, first, that the only institution I know of in our circle that seems to have it right every transition is Spelman College. If you look at their change before Janetta Cole, on to Beverly Tatum, on to Mary Smith Campbell, and on to the new president, There's no argument, there's no headlines, there's no friction, because they do it right. They have in place the kind of mechanisms that ensure that all the stakeholders who are required to be a part of it are part of it. They share the news about the person, they publish their credentials, they talk about their background, and they give everyone an opportunity to meet them and to speak with them and talk. And so they go from president to president to president without the upheaval and disruption that so many of us face. You asked me to talk a little bit about my experiences. In my two major colleges, I followed 4 presidents in a 10-year period. Each one of those colleges had a 3 and a 2 and a 2 and a 2. Well, think about how disruptive that is for our campuses, for the folk who work there, for the students who serve, for the alumni. And there was no onboarding in my part, you know. They call you one day, you're the president, and you're on your own. Find out for yourself what you can do, right? I got a call when I accepted Texas College, and you know, we'll call names. When I accepted Texas College, I got a call, and the bishop had asked me a couple of times. They had met, and so I said, okay, fine. I'll come September 1st. Then I got a call from a friend of mine at Saks. I worked at Saks as well. He said, Strick? I said, yep. He's understanding you're going to Texas College. I said, well, I intend to. He said, when are you going? I said, September the 1st. He said, don't do that. He said, why don't you wait and go October the 1st? And so I said, I mean, what's a month? He said, you'll find out. So the Saks team went in, and then I got the findings. The college had 83 recommendations and 39 suggestions. Death nail. Every standard in the book was affected. And within a year, accreditation was lost. And so it was a 6-year journey from that discovery through all the other things that lead to that, federal government requirements and, you know, state requirements that you had to work through. And so the onboarding was an immediate work. It was immediate discovery. And so it took 6 years, and by the time I left in 2000, they were down to one recommendation, which was demonstrate ongoing financial stability. And fortunately, I had a great young man to come in and follow me, Dr. Billy Hawkins, who went through that whole process, political and otherwise, and within 2 years, the college was reaccredited. And it's the only college that's ever gone through this process, to lose it and then get it. My second college was Wiley, and again, they had 4 presidents in the 10 years prior to my going. And I got a call and said, man, you don't want that, that board is crazy. You know, I'm used to dealing with crazy people, so I took the job anyway. But the difference was the community around Wiley was a kind of different community, and so they bought early into where we were trying to go, what we were trying to do. And so I didn't have the pushback from faculty and staff. I think Charles Cornish is here, one of my former students who is also a employee at Wiley now. And he knows how we went through the process of growing, becoming a part. Shared governance was very critical. I know, Charlie, you may talk about that soon, but it was a partnership within that helped us to make it through. I determined by my incoming experiences and my non-onboarding that I would not leave the institution in that same kind of situation for my successors. Dr. Hawkins and I met before he came on campus. We talked about what I was leaving him. I said, I want you to be sure you understand this. And he accepted, and of course, he did a good job. In my second place at Wiley, I was much more intentional because I knew more. You know, if you don't know more after 20 years of being a president, you're in a bad shape. So here I am in my 22nd year. I determined it's time for me to go. I'm old, and they don't need any more old people. I told the board, be sure you get somebody young, because if you want somebody old, I might as well stay, you know. Get a young man. And so Dr. Herman Felton was selected. But I started preparing that board for my exit 2 years before I left. And so in 2016, I began to have a series of board training exercises with the help of AGB. Every board meeting, we set aside a day to talk about where we were, where they were trying to go, what's the appropriate approach for exiting and onboarding of a new president. And so when I got to my last year, I said to the board, I'm pretty tired, and I'm going to take a sabbatical, really. Not total, but partial sabbatical this last semester. But what I want you to do, though, is to bring in the president you've selected and let us work side by side. So he needs to be paid, not free. And so he actually came on the payroll in February of the year I was leaving. And for the next 4 months, he attended every board meeting. He attended my cabinet meetings. He met the public. He met the church. He met alumni. And so when I actually left the campus, 1st of April, and I said, I'll be back for commencement. And I came back for commencement, and that was the only time I've been back on the campus, except when he called me at his investiture. My point, though, is that it doesn't have to be nasty. Our colleges need to prepare for the transition. Because if you prepare for the transition, you give the new president a real opportunity to come in running and not discovering. But the board itself must be prepared and must understand and must know what is going on at the institution as well. If you do that, you can avoid having to have a forensic audit or strategic audit, because the onboarding process allows both to go and to be successful. 2 or 3 just quick points. Number one, to new presidents, if they treat your exiting president bad, don't you think your coming is going to make you good? Be very careful about how you go in. Be very careful about how you deal with the ex-president, because you're going to be one sooner than you know. You start preparing for the exit when you come in as the entrant, so to speak. But that transition is very critical. It's critical to the students. It's critical to the faculty. It's critical to the church. It's critical to the state. It's critical to the alumni that we quit this craziness, this insanity that we do every time we change the president at our colleges and universities. This program that UNCF has right now will fail if every new president comes in, rejects what the president has done, and build its infrastructure. All right, so transformation means getting it right. I'm sorry, I probably took too long.
No, I think there's value.
I'm going to jump in here after Dr. Strickland, because, I agree. I think Spellman gets it right, but I don't think Tougaloo does too badly. We didn't have we didn't have the ugliness going back to even George Owen when I was president when I was a student, and transferring that. But it is important that you own both. And when I became president, I was already part of the institution. I'd been there for 5 years. I had served as the founding director of that Health and Wellness Center that they brought me there to make it work. And I played musical chairs, as I say. As I tell people often, I was assistant to the president, and then as I did the Health and Wellness Center, then I became the vice president for institutional advancement and went on to become the interim president. So I know a little bit about the institution because I also served on the Board of Trustees before I became all of those things while I was working in government. And so the president that I worked with, Dr. Joe Lee, went to become president of Alabama State University, and we stayed in close touch and still do today. And there was an interim president in there. So I didn't have the onboarding, but I had an orientation. So when I informed the board that I was going to retire in 2019, I did that in 2017. We did something similar to what Dr. Strickland is talking about, started talking about that. But I believe in board training. I believe that board should be very well informed. Otherwise, they will not know how to carry out their fiduciary responsibilities. But when we did the search, they all agreed to do a search, and we did the search, and Dr. Carmen Walters was selected. She did come in a month before I left and got to know the campus, met the people on the campus. But she also knew that she could call me anytime she needed me. And that was when she needed me. not when I needed to say anything about what's going on at Tougaloo College. And because I had left there as the president, although I'm an alum, I'm not there every day. I'm not out there. I come to the things that I think are important, but when she calls me, I answer, because she's now the president of Tougaloo College, and no institution needs two presidents at any time.
Yes, that deserves an applause. Dr. Nelms?
Well, I'll just remind everyone what Ralph Waldo Emerson said. Don't take the fence down before you find out why it was put up. So if you're a new president or you're a new provost, make sure you understand why policies, procedures, and approaches were enacted in the first place. Don't take the fence down without discovering why it was put up in the first place.
Excellent.
And you don't know as much as you think you know.
I think when you think about the role of executive leadership within the Institute of Building Capacity, I think that's one of our opportunity areas to build resources and tools to support that onboarding process. Again, so that we can help position those incoming presidents to hit the ground running, but to also have greater impact upon their arrival. So let's shift gears. Dr. Strickland mentioned governance, and I think governance deserves an opportunity to first be redefined. What is governance, Dr. Nelms? But more importantly, talk about some of the challenges around governance, but more specifically, as you navigated through your 3-time chancellorships, some of the opportunity areas that you saw within governance and your ability to navigate through that.
That's not the question I want to answer.
All right. Well, what question do you want to answer?
I want to talk about governance, if you don't mind, in the context of transformation, because I'm convinced that authentic transformation is anchored by 4 things. The very first one is the institution's mission. You don't need to write a whole new anything about under transformation. It's anchored in the institution's mission. Second, it's anchored by governance. Third, by the institution's culture. And finally, by its leadership. Those things together are necessary for effective transformation and the sustainability. Otherwise, all you have is sort of episodic change, dressed and disguised as transformation. But according to the accreditation standards for all institutions, whether they're public, private, 2-year, 4-year, doctoral research, whatever, they have to have a board of governance, by whatever name, trustees, regents, supervisors, whatever you want to call them. That's a requirement for all institutions. And according to the AGB and the good governance, the role of the board, there's the duty of care, putting the mission of the institution above everything else. The duty of loyalty. So you can't serve 2 masters. You can't be out here trying to be president at one place and your loyalty is someplace else. And then the final one is you have to keep the institution's mission at the forefront of all of your decision making, because you cease to be an individual member of the board. It is the board, not 11 separate people. Okay, so I just want to say that. Okay, now, the key to governance is to make sure you get the right people on board in the first place. And some people shouldn't be on board. I mean, they really shouldn't, because they have these selfish interests and needs, and they need to have a desire for attention. Now, most presidents can't determine who's going to be on the board. It's either going to be the bishop, the governor, or somebody else is going to make that decision. But if you're good at cultivating relationships, you can have some input in getting the right people on the board. But then once you get people on the board, you have to make sure that there's a good onboarding process, Strick, a good onboarding process as opposed to people coming on board thinking that they're going to redo everything themselves and change programs and all of that kind of thing. Well, I digress, but you follow what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Okay?
Absolutely.
And you don't have to make it up as you go. Boards must be committed to continuous learning, continuous education, okay? And just because they do it a particular way at Tougaloo doesn't mean that Wiley is going to do it that way. But there's some principles of governance that apply no matter where you are, okay? And the first one is to make a distinction between governance and leadership. The two are inextricably linked, but there are a lot of boards who are trying to manage. Come on now, we got to call it what it is. And the way to get at that, I believe, is to make sure that we have continuing education around best practices, effective practices, and principles of governance and so on and so forth. And now, you know, you need to stay in your lane, otherwise you have a collision. And but at any rate, so that's what I wanted to say.
No, thank you for that. And yes, please.
And you said it.
And I think
Following that line of thinking, what Charlie has talked about with shared governance, I have always believed that a better informed board is a better performing board.
Yes.
When you talk about the fidelity of duty and fidelity of care and even the fidelity of obedience, they need to know what that means to them.
That's right.
They need to know in order to carry that out. They need to know about the bylaws, the policies. They need to be, most of those policies, they need to be passing themselves, approving. So they need to read that. And I know when I first became president, even though I had served on the Board of Trustees at Tougaloo College, I personally provided to the board a handbook about financial statements, because that is clearly one of their duties, to look at understanding the finances, understand how to read those statements. But you know, shared governance goes out a little bit deeper. You know, it goes to your faculty, to your administrators, and all of the other staff people, because so much is done in higher education. It was so amazing to me to come out of government and where I had been a state official, appointed state official, and to get there and you know how everything's done by committee and how that shared decision making. But it's important. It's important for the buy-in at every level to think they have input into that, and understanding where I was, I might have had autonomy in making decisions, what I had to take to a board, what was in my lane and what was in their lane, because there are clearly some things that's in the purview of the Board of Trustees and some things in the purview of the president. But having had to report to a governor, I use this experience largely because I learned that I had to manage up as well as manage down. And I think that every president out there probably thinks about that sometimes, because we are the ones, as a president, seeing the big picture. And sometimes the board members or others don't. And we have to learn how to manage those different processes and for the good of the institution and the flow of information, and to accomplish the end results that we need to do, we need to get. And it doesn't mean that that you're going to be in their face and say you're doing something wrong, but just guide them. Because sometimes they need that, but you have to build those kind of relationships and network where you can manage up and manage down.
Yeah.
absolutely.
You know, the big picture is often not understood by board members, because sometimes we have some presidents who really don't want the board to know, I hate to say it, all the things that are happening on the campus. I'm on the Bendix board now. I've been on several college boards. But accreditation is a critical issue, for instance. And it's kind of embarrassing when you're having difficulty with SACS and you're president and you got to do these reports and you worry what the board is going to say. It may be a fiscal issue. It may be an enrollment issue. My position is that boards should not get surprises.
That's right.
No president should allow a board to discover something that he or she has known was festering over a period of time. I told my board, you know, hell, I don't get to sleep at night. You don't need to sleep at night. You know, I mean, I'm telling the truth. You know, I think the Chancellor from Fayetteville State is here. In one of my speeches, I told him I sleep like a baby. I sleep 2 hours, wake up and cry. I sleep, I wake up and cry. You because the issues are overwhelming. No one understands the life of a president. It's an overwhelming experience. It's not peaches and cream. And I know faculty get upset by decisions made, students get upset, but the big picture is all of these things must be understood by all of those folk who have to make decisions. And that begins with the president ensuring that the board is informed at all times. And make that board support you in what you're trying to accomplish at the level. And so that's my little tidbit is just make sure. Don't tell the chairman by himself. Don't tell the chairman of the finance committee by him or herself. Make it a board activity. And don't respond to individual trustees. It's the board to whom you report, right? But we got some chairmen who think they're the board, the president, and everything else. And so we have to work through. You have to work through that. And I know you already. This is nothing new. I know we understand a lot that's new, but it's just a reality. And this is where we work. Secondly, let me go back to the transformation piece. This great program that UNCF is doing right now will not end up in enduring transformation unless the board is involved as well. When ICB first got started and we applied for a grant and we got a grant, my board knew everything we were agreeing to, how much money it was, how much time it was going to take. And then I said to the chairman, I want you to be on the committee that works with UNCF to make it happen here, because I'm going to be gone in 2 years. And we got to make certain that my leaving means the next president is going to decommit. UNCF is putting too much time and energy and money and work in this for us to let it pass by every time a presidential change takes place.
So may I just make a
Sure.
quick observation here about another part of governance that I didn't mention and we haven't spoken to directly. Okay? So shared governance, that's one of the things that's really different about higher education than in corporate and the not-for-profit sector in many instances. I mean, they have no faculty, there's no staff, there's no students voting on everything that you do and all of that kind of thing. And so I think one of the things that presidents have to do is to learn to listen to diverse and divergent points of view. Listen. Now, it may not be your reality. You may think it's all bunkers, okay? But you really do have to listen and try to process, okay, what people are saying to you. Listen to more than the words that they're using to express themselves. And if you work at developing those really good working relationships, you don't have to wait for a vote of no confidence to discover that people are not aligned with you, okay? And people will, if you give them that opportunity, they will really give you some really good feedback. And what you have to be willing to do is to be humble, okay, in the receipt of that, okay? But you don't have to run around trying to do everything individuals are asking you to do, but really the ability to listen, to process effectively, and to engage people in the decision making, even though the decision you make may not be in keeping with what they want you to do, okay? But we do have to listen. Presidents have to listen much more effectively than many of them are willing to do. Just because you're president doesn't mean you know everything.
Well said. And I think we have something that Dr. Strickland sort of touched on. When we think about ICB and this vertical of executive leadership, you'll notice in the language is a very deliberate desire to include board members, presidents, and the executive leadership team, because that is a group that we want to make sure has access to the information and or the best practices and has a channel or a model by which we can have ongoing and constant dialogue. So next we're going to talk about leadership. And I'm going to come over to you, Dr. Hogan. And when we were caucusing about today's session, you talked about participatory leadership. And a lot of your success was driven by how you led. But break that down for the audience and just talk a little bit about your philosophy and thinking around that.
Yes. Everything that I've done since I left Tougaloo College, even as an undergraduate student, has been in leadership. I got my first leadership job in 1974 when I was asked to be the executive director of the Mental Health Association for the county, and then I went on to the state. And I say that because when they hired me, I told them, I know a lot about psychology. I know a lot about different things. I don't know anything about leadership. I don't know if I have balanced my own checkbook. But I said that to say that I was open and vulnerable about that. But I also was open to learning. And did I learn? Learned so many things about people, even though I thought I knew a lot of that in psychology. But the importance of working with people and treating people as though, as you would want to be treated. Sort of simple with those kind of tenets. Give people respect. Let them know what you want, expect from them, hold them accountable, but allow them to do their work. And I have two basic philosophies. Is to be firm, be friendly, and be fair. And if you treat people fairly, you will fare well, because you will really have better performing employees around you. Leadership is not for the faint of heart. Because, I say that because, everybody's looking at you. You at a fishbowl, whatever you do. As I've grown over the years, whatever you do, you're going to have people who support you, and you're going to have your critics. I learned to never internalize it, personalize it, or trivialize it. It's about the position you hold. It's about just because you're out there in the public. But I also realized that it was important that I don't trivialize it. Something like Dr. Nelms said earlier. You have to listen, and even if they're disagreeing, people are disagreeing with you, you can listen to them and find out things from them that will help you do a self-assessment, and that's important. Never think that we know everything, that we can't really assess who we are and see how people are seeing us, and it may not be the same way we see ourselves. And that's what growth come in, because you began to listen and you began to learn. And I kept that with me. And as I went through the process of leadership as a state official, and 15 years of doing that and other kinds of things, and came to become president of Tougaloo College, something my father told me, because I was talking to him about, I didn't know if I wanted to do this. And he said, he told me that sometimes people are called to preach, they're called to teach. And he said, but I think you've been called to lead, because wherever you go, that's what you end up doing. And because I've always wanted to know that I'm a good fit for whatever I'm going into, and that's a good fit for me, because it's a two-way process. I don't just accept the job because it's there. I want to know, am I a good fit for this? Is this agent, even though I knew Tougaloo College, is that a good fit for me? And I did that with every other position that I had. But he said something to me that was quite funny, and that held me in great stead, even during challenging times. He told me that there would be days when everybody will know how to do my job better than I do. He said, and they're going to tell you that. They're going to tell you that frequently. He said, and some of those people have never let a duck across the road. But the humor in that was that that comes with the territory of being a leader. That you're not going to get the praise and the claps on the back every day. And as I think I told Dr. Michael Lomax at one time, that we're in a profession where we get criticism every day and praise maybe once every millennium. That's not quite true. But what you learn is that you have to take the credit for all that's wrong and share the credit for all that goes good. And that's part of that as well. And when you can think through those processes, listen and learn, and not take things personally, trivialize it, it makes the leadership and working with people so much better. Networking, building consensus when that's needed. But also I've learned that you can have all the technology, all the nice building, everything that you have, all the systems in place, but if you don't get a handle on your people, you miss out, because you got to have people to do all of that. And I don't care how advanced we get in technology. I'm a firm believer that technology can never displace the power of human interaction to make things move and make things work. And as we go through the leadership of our institutions, we have to realize that there are going to be really good, great days, and there are going to be not so great days. And judgment is really important, because so much of what you face on a day-to-day basis may never enter into any leadership or management books. You have to think about it, you have to react to it, you have to be adaptable, and you have to figure out and navigate the terrain sometimes when you don't even have a compass. I liken that to what I always expected from my students. I said, I want you all to be able to think and be able to navigate the changing terrain and the turbulent terrain, even when you don't have a compass. But leaders have to do that same thing, because you face things that you didn't expect to. Things come with you that you didn't expect to. And it's kind of like being a cheerleader, the leader, the manager, the thinker, and being that cheerleader to get the best out of the people around you and let them know that you appreciate that. I've been involved with a lot of studies about what make workplaces work better. It's never about the salary that people get. That's still almost poor. Appreciation and value, feeling valued, are always at the top of the list. And I think that will continue to be real. You have to make tough decisions. You have to make unpopular decisions. But that's it, and always remember that it stops at your desk. Whatever's going on at that institution, the responsibility falls on your desk for all of it. And you have to wear that and own that, because and know how to navigate those terrains and get people involved, get feedback. I say to presidents, have other people that you can talk to that you trust. I have 5 people, in addition to Dr. Strickland sitting here on this stage, but I was part of a network of what they call the cool kids. All of us is old, but they were the cool kids because we were presidents who supported each other. And there's nothing out there that you is up the telephone facing this. How do you handle that? That's what Dr. Strickland, Dr. Yancey, Dr. Irvin, Dr. Hawkins, and others, but I had 5 different people who were going to tell me when I was stinking. I mean, they were going to tell it like it is. They weren't going to sugarcoat it. It elevated is that I had people like that. They've said this, X, Y, and Z. What do you think? And help me to be my mirror. Let me see myself as they're saying, what do I need to correct? My own husband was like that with me. I mean, I could talk to him and he didn't sugarcoat it. He'd tell me. And I have, because leadership is not always, it's difficult and it's lonely sometimes, and you have to pick your friends and pick your confidants wisely. But there's nothing that goes on out there in the work that you will be doing that you cannot pick up the telephone and call someone else. The resilience, the perseverance, and I know that all of you are capable of that because you've just come out of a COVID environment, a pandemic, where you had no playbook, but the institution doors are still open, students are still being educated. So you have that resilience and that perseverance, and you're not going to give up, and you're going to keep doing what you're going to do. But just know that it's not easy. You're going to get the good with the bad, and the bad with the good, and you're going to have to take it all in stride and maintain self-control and focus.
So we've talked about leadership. We've talked about governance. We've talked about leadership transitions. And yesterday when we were talking, you all had observations about this experience. As we get ready to close out, can you each share your recommendations on how to fully take advantage of an experience such as this conference as participants, but specifically as CEOs of our fine institutions? And we'll start with you, Dr. Strickland.
Is that because he's a senior?
You know, my greatest, I think, takeaway is engagement and involvement across the whole strata of the leadership at the institution. I had a friend once who said, if you want to be successful, you got to understand that some people will be sipping champagne and eating caviar, and some will be drinking moonshine and eating barbecue. And the rest are in between. And for this enterprise, I think, requires the intentional usage and involvement of the lesser of these. The president won't make it. Your transformation officer will not make it.
Yeah.
Your vice president will not make it. If you understand that yard cutter and that janitor is just as important to this process as your board of trustees and your alumni and others, you'll never have a culture change at your institution. It's the lesser of these who make us who we are, who make us leaders, who make us officers, who make us, innovators, who make us. It's focusing on ensuring that within our institutions, that the culture change transformation involves more than the leadership and the governance. The undergirder is just as important as the one who's pulling the strings, so to speak.
Great. Dr. Hogan?
Dr. Nelms.
Oh, Dr. Nelms.
Oh, no. Go ahead.
I'm yielding to you.
I don't want to talk.
You do.
I
want to say something, but I'm going to let you.
So here's a takeaway for me, and that is distributed leadership. Okay? About the only thing you can do by yourself is read a good book. And if you can't read, you have difficulty. But so distributed leadership. So as I listened to all of the presenters and all of that, and as I attended the sessions, the takeaway for me is that the transformation officer cannot do it by herself. The finance strategic person can't do it by himself. The president can't do it. And you have to have sense enough to know and to be willing to call on other people to assist in getting the work done. You have to incentivize that, and you really have to reward people. And sometimes all you have is a good thank you, but we're willing to use it generously, okay, and encourage people. What is that word, Strick, when you give people, you empower them?
That's good enough.
That's good enough. So you empower people. You empower people to do the job that you're asking them to do, okay? Support them and hold them accountable. But distributed leadership, not some centralized, top-down approach to getting the work done. It's not going to happen. Not transformation. You may get yourself ready for your next job, but you're not going to transform your institution.
I agree with everything that Dr. Strickland and Dr. Nelms have said, but I also say that you need to find the value in the work and what you're trying to transform, and let that be communicated across the institution. I've found that when people understand the why, the purpose, and begin the value and the impact that it can have, and that can become their shared vision, much more can get done and be accomplished. It's getting back to what Charlie said about distributed leadership, and it's absolutely correct. But when you find purpose and meaning that's bigger than who you are, more important than who you think you are, and share that across and inspire those around you to see that same kind of vision, understand it will have an impact on everyone, not just a few. Everybody can get on board, and we can make this happen. Because I really like what I've seen here this week. I really like the work that's underway, and I know that if our institutions engage in this, we can see real transformation at work, and the results will benefit so many people who are not even in this room.
Thank you. Ashe. Well, thank you. So, listen, folks.
May I say something else?
Yeah.
So here's what I want to encourage everyone here to do, is to really take care of yourselves physically. I'm really serious about this, okay? This work will kill you. Okay? And if that cobbler doesn't kill, if you know, this stuff will kill you. Take care of yourselves. I'm really serious about this thing.
No, you're
Take
right.
care of yourselves physically. Walk, run, crawl, whatever you need to do, but have a process of taking care of yourselves.
Yes.
Get your physicals the way you're supposed to. That's why you have insurance. You don't want insurance when you die. You know,
Balance in the life. Take a vacation. Take your vacation.
take your
It won't
vacation.
matter when you retire. They're not going. It won't matter. Take your vacation.
It's going to be here when you get back.
That's right.
Wow. Well, listen, folks, let's give them a round of applause. You know, we are very, very fortunate to be in a position to have each of you as a resource to help us drive this mission forward. So thank you for what you're doing to make yourselves available. Dr. Nelms, Dr. Strickland, Dr. Hogan, congratulations on failing retirement once again. But the value that you bring to what we're trying to get done is tremendous, and it is really going to position us to be incredibly successful. So at this time, I think we're welcoming back Asia Johnson to the stage.
Yes, can we get another round of applause for our panelists and our moderator, Dr. Zillah Fluker. Asia, at this time we are going to welcome back our host for today's plenary, Asia Johnson.
Again, thank you. Another round of applause for the library and the newest member to the library. So that concludes today's afternoon plenary. But before everyone blows from the room, I just want to give an announcement that our sponsor, SEI, is still doing headshots. So if you haven't gotten a headshot, please find their signage. I believe they were towards the front of the hotel. Now they've kind of migrated towards the back. But please get a headshot, get another one, get a third one. They are here to support you. Also, we do have our UNCF ICB Instagram account. So please follow us if you have not at UNCF ICB. Get all the latest and greatest on ICB, what our presidents and residents are doing, and all the amazing transformation work that we have going on at UNCF. And lastly, don't forget, after our afternoon sessions, we will be having homecoming in the Grand Ballroom tonight. I know, as an HBCU alum, we love our homecoming, so we're going to do our best to just culminate everybody's homecoming in this room. So again, thank you to our panelists, thank you, Dr. Fluker, and thank you all for coming. We'll see you later.
Ladies and gentlemen, the headshots will be in the Piper room,